covering news where you live. This is 5 News at Noon.
Well, thank you for joining us today for your 5 News at Noon. I'm Morgan Wrigley with meteorologist Stephen Elmore. Had to wear a jacket this morning, but it's gonna feel like spring today, it seems like.
Yeah, it's been nice so far today. Really, we had a lot of sunshine this morning. It was still cooler outside though, but now that cold front's starting to work in. A little bit extra cloud coverage this afternoon. Overall, still a really nice day today. We take a look across the area and you see that cloud coverage really starting to build in this afternoon. Again, that cold front, while it's a weak cold front, it is bringing in some of that cooler air. You step outside, you can feel that light breeze that's coming from the north, trying to bring in that cooler air. I think tomorrow will be about 5 degrees cooler than where we land for today. Current temperatures anywhere between those mid to upper 60s, low 70s across the river valley. Still seeing plenty of sunshine peek through as well. Here's a look at what we're tracking over the next several days. Again, that weak cold front's coming in for today, but some rain chances start to come back into the forecast by the time we get closer towards the end of the week and especially into this weekend. Unfortunately, this weekend, we may see some storms as well. Storm Prediction Center hinting at the fact that maybe another severe weather outbreak. We'll talk about what details could bring for our part of our area coming up in just a little bit. But Northwest Arkansas, the rest of the day today, daytime highs right around those low to mid 70s. Extra cloud coverage filters in the rest of the day. This evening, really not too bad though. Mid to upper 50s, low 60s across the river valley. I think today we finally see those daytime highs right around those low 80s eventually later on this afternoon into the early evening hours. But then once we get into this evening, really comfortable outside. Again, tomorrow just a bit cooler. Those rain chances increasing by the end of the week, and by the weekend we could see some storms back into the forecast. We'll talk about it coming up.
Thanks, Stephen. Well, in Rogers, a suspect at the center of a deadly shooting investigation will now be tried as an adult. Alejandro Zenon Reyes was arrested back in January in Mexico and was sent back to the U.S. Authorities said it was apparent Reyes left Arkansas to avoid being caught in connection with the case. The deadly shooting happened back in 2022. Rogers police responded to a shooting on East Asher Court where 17-year-old Alexis Wynn was found dead. In Benton County, Zenon Reyes faces charges of manslaughter, theft by receiving, tampering with evidence, and minor in possession of a handgun, which he pleaded not guilty to in February. And a Rogers man is behind bars accused of shooting his mother in the head with a crossbow and leading police on a chase across state lines. This happened Monday morning at a home in Bentonville along Linebarger Lane. Police say 29-year-old Joseph Alexander broke into his parents' home and fired a crossbow at his mother twice. When police found her, she was rushed to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Later in the day, police say they found Alexander in Berry County, Missouri. That's just across the state line. We're told he led police on a chase but was caught, taken into jail, and right now he's facing multiple charges, including attempted capital murder, and is waiting to be taken back to the Benton County Jail. Well, if you're driving in Fort Smith, you'll see 2 new right turn signs on Rogers Avenue and 66th Street. Officials say this is another effort to make transportation in the city safer. Fort Smith PD says the signs were installed at the busy junction last week. Effective immediately, police will start enforcing the new traffic directive. The police chief says data showed left turns at this location significantly increased crash risks. The department says last year there were 11 crashes at this location alone.
We just wanted the streets department, we got with them and they were very helpful in getting that signage up to try and make that more obvious to motorists that don't try that.
Additional city safety measures include installing all-way stops, rectangular rapid flashing beacons for pedestrian safety, and some other intersection enhancements. FSPD says they're also still enforcing their no tolerance policy on jaywalking. Well, lawmakers from both parties are calling for an investigation. A report claims top Trump administration officials mistakenly shared plans for an imminent attack on Houthi targets in Yemen on the encrypted messaging app Signal with a journalist. Monday, The Atlantic's Jeffrey Goldberg published an article claiming he was accidentally added to that 18-person group chat by an account sharing the name of National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. The chat appeared to also include Vice President J.D. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The National Security Council later said a message thread included in Goldberg's article appears to be authentic.
I found it completely improbable that the top national security leadership of the United States would be discussing on a commercial messaging app the possible imminent attack on another country.
This is the guy that peddles in garbage. Nobody was texting war plans.
President Donald Trump was asked about the report shortly after it was published, and he said he did not know about it. Well, President Trump's 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum are now in effect. A report from U.S. Steel showed the industry generates an economic impact of more than $380 million in Arkansas. One expert says the tariffs could positively impact steel producers, including those here in the natural state, but they'll also affect exporters like Canada.
It also means that there are going to be higher costs to consumers, difficulties with manufacturers who use inputs of steel and aluminum into their production process.
The impact for those at home will all come down to the cost, affecting everyday items such as cars, home appliances, and more. Meanwhile, the U.S. tariff war with Canada and the European Union has distillers worried increased taxes on their international shipments could dry up their liquor sales. The European Union announced in March it plans to put a 50% tariff on all American whiskey, despite whiskey exports jumping nearly 60% in the last 3 years, though that decision is now delayed until later next month. Across the border, Canadian retailers are pulling American liquor off the shelves.
A lot of that whiskey that was destined for international markets is now going to stay in the country. So we have this kind of trifecta of not good scenarios for the distilling industry. The threat of tariffs, the decrease in consumption, and the oversupply.
Now, tequila is also on the list of alcohol that may soon see a price increase or be hard to come by. Some distillery owners expect prices from distributors to skyrocket to make up for the 25% tariff in place on all goods from Mexico. And that decision is now delayed until later next month. A possible breakthrough in the war in Ukraine. The United States issued a joint statement with Russia announcing a limited ceasefire in the Black Sea. But as Derek Waller reports, a full ceasefire still appears far off.
Inside this Ritz-Carlton hotel in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, negotiators from Ukraine and Russia holding marathon talks on separate floors with U.S. officials trying to hammer out a peace deal. A joint statement from the United States and Russia could come down at any minute, calling for a limited ceasefire in the Black Sea in an effort to protect shipping lanes.
More closer to peace than we ever have been.
U.S. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz on Face the Nation Sunday, sounding optimistic that the maritime deal could lead to further talks.
Then we'll talk the line of control, which is the actual front lines, and that gets into the details of verification mechanisms, peacekeeping, freezing the lines where they are.
But so far, the peace talks are just that. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said nearly 90 people were injured in a Russian strike on Monday, including 17 children. On Sunday, Zelensky paid respects to fallen troops in this video provided by Ukraine's government. And in Saudi Arabia, there's still been no direct contact between the two countries. Charles Kupchan is a senior fellow with the Council on Foreign Relations.
Putin is still putting out demands. Ukrainian neutrality, the end of Western arms shipments to Ukraine, recognition of Eastern Ukraine as belonging to Russia. These are poison pills.
A lasting peace still far off. Derek Waller, CBS News.
A Kremlin spokesperson says both Russia and the U.S. are currently analyzing the outcome of talks in Saudi Arabia yesterday, but now says the content of what was discussed will not be published. Well, Luigi Mangione, the man accused of shooting and killing a U.S. health insurance executive in New York last year, is requesting permission to use a laptop while he's in federal custody. In a court filing, Mangione's lawyer asked that he be granted access to a laptop to view a large amount of documents, videos, and other materials related to his case. The filing says he wouldn't be able to connect to the internet, run video games, or stream movies or shows. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office did not immediately respond. Well, UA Fort Smith here at home launching a new scholarship program to help get rid of some financial barriers for students. The program, UAFS Guarantee, will look to cover tuition and mandatory fees after eligible students apply for grants, scholarships, and other financial aid. The program is meant for undergraduate, degree-seeking students who live in Arkansas and meet some specific financial aid criteria. The university says this is all about creating more opportunities.
We have about 60% of our students right now who do receive Pell Grants. So we know that this is a huge need for our students, and true to our mission, we're trying to make getting an education accessible to them.
Students do not need to submit a separate application for this program, but will still have to complete their usual FAFSA and SAMS applications. Well, a heads up if you're headed to Crystal Bridges, the museum says they're starting a major gallery transformation. Starting next year, Crystal Bridges will be adding another 114,000 square feet of new space for more stories of American art and for learning. That means they're moving almost every work of art in the building, including some beloved favorites that are moving to what is now the Early American galleries.